Welcome to the Bridging Broken to Breakthrough podcast. I am your host, Maria Wingard. Today is a red tent conversation, and I have the pleasure of introducing all of you to my Miss Julia. She's a feisty Southern belle with an amazing relationship with Jesus. She knows how to storm heaven for a gal and has been a true gift from the Lord in my life. I now consider her one of my spiritual mamas. So today, as I introduce you to her, we're going to jump right in to marriage advice. Welcome, Miss Julia. Welcome to the red tent.
Did I bring my bangled belt?
Did you? And you would bangle that belt, wouldn't you?
Yes, I would.
Dance on the tabletop. So, Miss Julia, we met a few years ago. It was in the time of COVID.
Right.
And I was down in Louisiana helping to take care of my stepdaughter who had just had a baby.
Yep.
And I was walking and praying the neighborhood, right? And you pulled a me, is what I tell people. And so tell me, what happened from your perspective? Tell our listeners.
Well, I saw a walker, and my little street is pretty closed off, and it's short, and I'm easily bored. And I asked her, had she found a longer path? Where did she come from, and where was she walking? And I was hoping that there was something like a pasture with a trail, and she had found a place to walk in peace and safety that I didn't know about. And that's why I stopped her on the road, just ran my car right up to her, rolled down my window and hollered, hey. And it all began there.
It did. And then you invited me over for tea the next day. Because you had been obedient and was following your children's directives. They had requested that you be cautious because of your age, which was, some wisdom. And so we sat on your back porch and we visited almost every single morning while I was down there.
That's right.
And became fast friends.
That's right. I had been doing telephone research, and my grandfather happened to die in the 1919 influenza. Mm-hmm. And I was looking at hospitals, and the VA hospital were dragging those influenza patients dragging their beds out of the wards, putting them in tents on the grounds where they had sunlight. Right. They were rolling up the sides of the tent and pulling those boys out into the sunlight. And they did better in their recovery than the ones that remained inside in the wards. And I thought, it's the sunlight, so that's why I was outside all day.
And actually, that's backed up by science because they found vitamin D was extremely instrumental in people's recovery.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's one of they said that people that were taking that vitamin D had a much better recovery. Mm-hmm. Or didn't get it as severely. So, yeah, your research actually paid off and has a lot of backing in science that they may or may not have known back then, but definitely has been proven now. Mm-hmm. So some of our more spicier conversations to go with our tea.
And that's what we're drinking now.
That's what we're drinking now. Have a little Cajun and a little Mediterranean in there, right? We had talked about dating, marriage, those kind of relationships. And you had brought up some things, and I said, oh, Miss Julia, my girls have got to hear this from a different perspective, because you were saying some of the same things just in your lovely Cajun. And I know you hate when I say that because you're like, I'm French.
That's right.
But you are from Louisiana, so yes. I lump all of you
yes.
Cajuns in there together. We had been talking about how you had taken in some people into your home, and then you were giving them some marriage advice. And you had told these boys...
Oh.
Yes. Now you know the conversation.
Yes. These boys were football players, and one of my pastors was the football coach at our local college. And these boys all came from southern Mississippi, these particular two that I was attached to. And we all put ourselves up for adoption, and they were single. And so we were sitting on the football field. We had prayed for the football field, for the visiting team, our team, that no one would be hurt, that it would be a time of peace and fun, and no problem between the two teams, no anger. And then we began to pray. We were in groups, and we prayed for our boys, and if they needed healing for something. And one of mine asked for healing for prayer for his knee. And then I said, oh, well, I'm fixing to have a double knee replacement. So he came over, and I said, put your hands on my knees and pray for them. So I was wanting to teach them to pray one for another and each other in their home. I love these kids. And I looked down there and I said, I want y'all to promise me, as you begin to look for wives, and you usually find them in college, if you're in college, look for wives that will be good wives. They'll be virtuous. They will be loyal. Whatever you're doing, they're going to want to do. All of those things. Look for the kind of wife that, don't look at the body, don't look at the face. Pick that inner thing about her. So they're out nodding their heads. And I said...
And then you threw the zinger in.
Yes, I did. And I said, and I love y'all, and I was talking street language, and I said, and don't y'all bring me no street babies either. And they are looking up, their eyes are big and round. And they said, no, ma'am. I said, we don't have any street babies I don't know about, do they? No, ma'am, we don't have that.
Now, when you were growing up, you also told me about how your mama said they were like the wild
They were
Colts.
called Woods Colts.
Woods Colts, yes.
And it was like a farm, and somebody finds a baby horse, and it needs feeding. It needs a mama, and they bring it in.
Has no mama, has no daddy. It's just a wood colt.
Yes.
Just born out on the street, so to speak.
Yes.
And so I love those two examples, and just the gentle wisdom of basically saying, like, yeah, we are going to be physically attracted, but this generation has been raised that the only thing that matters is physical attraction, and everything else is just going to come by the wayside. Whereas you can, in my opinion, and I say this to all of the people that I mentor, you can fall in love with anyone. Mm-hmm. You know, that's how friendships start. That's how relationships start. And you can fall out of love with someone just by not spending time with them. And then all of a sudden you don't love them anymore because you stop spending time with them. And by bringing up these important qualities that we've dismissed and labeled as old-fashioned or traditional or legalistic, and we've just like thrown those out the window, we've actually lost the key components that are the most important for a marriage.
Yes.
The day in and day out stuff.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I am grateful you decided to come walk a mile with me, your host, Maria Wingard, on the Bridging Broken to Breakthrough podcast for our Red Tent Conversations. To find out how Jesus bridges broken to breakthrough and to listen to past episodes, please visit hopewillarise.com. And thanks for listening today.